East, overnight Israeli airstrikes hit a densely populated refugee camp in Gaza, killing at least 50 Palestinians, with a nearby hospital saying 120 also died in the strikes. Israel claims a Hamas commander was killed in the attack.
OK, well, let's go to Mark White, who's in Tel Aviv this morning for his analysis of all of this. Mark, we're looking at awful pictures here, and basically Israel are saying, yeah, we may have killed 50 innocent people, but we got one of their top guys. Does that make it all okay?
Well, I don't think they're saying that they killed 50 innocent people, to be fair to the Israelis. They're saying that they carried out a strike in Jabalia because Hamas Commander had gone into a building with other Hamas terrorists. There was a firefight. They called in an airstrike. That airstrike took out a number of buildings, and yes, they say that that commander and the other fighters were killed. They've not spoken about the civilians that have died, and merely point to the fact that the reports that are coming out are coming from the Hamas-run health ministry. It's clear, I mean, there were civilians in that area. People had been told in recent days by the Israelis to get out of northern Gaza. Many have done so, but many others have not, because they don't want to cede ground to the Israelis, or perhaps they're not in a position to go. Maybe they're being prevented from going by Hamas. But what is clear is that there seems to have been a very significant airstrike in that area, and we know there were civilians. The actual numbers, well, the Hamas-run health ministry has claimed enormous numbers before, which then reporting on the ground has suggested was not quite the case. In terms of that battle, though it is raging throughout northern Gaza, there are significant firefights that are ongoing as the Israeli military pushes its way slowly and methodically down. And an indication of just how bloody that fighting is, it was always going to be, is the news overnight from the Israeli military that 11 of its soldiers have been killed in the past day. Those soldiers were either 19 or 20 years of age. There have been rumours sweeping around Israel about a heavy loss of life on the Israeli side, and it was confirmed just within the last hour by the Israeli military. One piece of good news to bring, well, potentially good news, it could change. There are credible reports that the Rafah crossing into Gaza from Egypt may open today to allow wounded Palestinians to cross over and into Egypt for treatment. The difficulty with that is the Israelis say they have to get guarantees that those crossing over into Egypt are actually innocent civilians and not potentially Hamas terrorists. So I'm sure there will be some issues with that if that procedure does take place. It's also hoped that if that Rafah crossing opens, then some of the hundreds, thousands of foreign nationals and dual nationals who are in Gaza that want out there will be able to get out via that crossing as well.
Mark, just whilst we were speaking to you, I just wanted to talk about a lot of the debate here in the UK about ceasefires versus humanitarian pauses, and Keir Starmer outlining why he isn't in support of a ceasefire yesterday. Just explain that to our audience, because, you know, we're hearing from UNICEF this morning that they're describing Gaza as a graveyard for children, and Oxfam are saying that the crisis is the worst humanitarian crisis in living memory.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely horrific on the ground. I don't think anybody is denying that, but Israel is determined that it wants and has, for the sake of its safety of its citizens, to continue with the war to take out and destroy Hamas. I think Sir Keir Starmer gave his clearest assessment yet of the reasons why he is not calling for a ceasefire but does want humanitarian pauses. And he said simply that if you have a ceasefire, then you have the situation frozen as it is, with Hamas still having the capability to launch fierce resistance against those Israeli troops who are currently in northern Gaza, but also firing rockets pretty much every hour throughout the day into Israeli civilian communities, more barrages that came across yesterday. And what Keir Starmer said is that you freeze that situation, all that's going to happen is that Hamas are going to feel emboldened, they're going to regroup, and they're going to continue their attacks on the Israeli population, and you have Israel no safer than it was before the attacks on the 7th of October. So that's his argument, and he falls into line with the UK government and many other allies of Israel who say that they want humanitarian pauses, short pauses, and sometimes localised around the Rafah crossing, where they can get aid trucks in, they can get injured people out. That, he feels, is more effective while still allowing Israel its goal of going after and destroying Hamas.
Mark, thank you. We will speak throughout the programme this morning.